Solomon. Alabama News Network is on ABC Montgomery and CBS 8.
40 years ago, the city of Selma was home to a fully functioning United States Air Force base. Craig Air Force Base closed down in 1977 after being used for pilot training for more than 30 years. Tonight, we take a look at the impact of the base closing on the city and raise the question, what would Selma be like today if Craig Air Force Base was still open? Reporter George McDonald has the story in his Alabama News Network Extra.
In 1976, the country celebrated its bicentennial. It also elected a Southern Democrat as the 39th President of the United States.
Well, Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia. Surely he would take care of those in the South. So everybody in this area voted for Jimmy Carter, and he won the election overwhelmingly over Gerald Ford. One of the first things he did when he got in the White House was close a bunch of Air Force bases, and lo and behold, who was on the list but Craig?
Craig Air Force Base in Selma was used as a pilot training facility for 37 years before it was shut down in 1977.
And I watched the last airplane leave from out here, and it was kind of spooky seeing the ramp out here empty, all the airplanes gone.
Gary Stein of Knoxville, Tennessee was an airplane mechanic on the base when it closed.
We had about 250 airplanes out here, flying all the time, training pilots.
I flew brand new T-38s from the factory, maybe had 15 hours on them.
Air Force veteran Scott Patterson is one of thousands of pilots who earned their wings at Craig Air Force Base.
About every 6 weeks, they would get roughly 65 brand new student pilot trainees in here, and another number would graduate. So there's a constant turnover of young lieutenants, basically, right out of college.
The fact that you had people from all over the country coming through here, it just added to the environment in the city.
You couldn't look in the sky any time during the daytime or the nighttime and not see those T-38s and T-33s back in the old days, and then the T-37s. You could look in the air anytime and see those planes flying.
Selma businessman Buddy Swift says the base had a huge impact on the city, and the city was thriving.
And you had second lieutenants, and first lieutenants, and captains that were making pretty darn good money back in those days. And they bought cars, they bought boats. They spent a lot of money in Selma.
Very few of the students, I recall, lived on base. The bachelors pretty much lived on base, but a lot of them lived downtown. A lot of the permanent party lived downtown.
Downtown traffic after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was impossible to get across the bridge. It was a crawl into Broad Street. There was no Walmart then. It was all downtown mom and pop organizations and businesses and shops.
According to records, Craig Air Force Base had a population of about 5,000 people, an annual budget of about $30 million, and spent more than $3 million in services from local businesses each year.
Back at that time when Craig was in full swing, Selma was in full swing.
It was just a great thing for the community, and it was just heartbreaking when we lost it.
When you take that many millions of dollars out of an economy without it being prepared for it, there's going to be a problem.
Viewpoint, you're on the air.
Radio talk show host Randy Williams says the base closing changed what kind of city Selma would become 40 years later. He says today the community is facing challenges in the areas of poverty, unemployment, economic development, education, diversity, and crime.
Crime is probably the number one issue in Selma right now.
That economic feature is probably I would think the most important one.
Usually you'll find that the economy will fix a lot of those other problems that you have.
The old air base is now Craig Field Airport and Industrial Park, with more than 1,200 people employed at the facility.
We got companies out there that are looking to expand in the near future, so that's going pretty good. I think the future's bright out there.
Well, I think they've done a real good job out there as far as utilization of the property.
But what would Selma look like if Craig Air Force Base was still open?
40 years later, for that military base to have a budget of $35 million, what does that translate to in 2017? Would that be something along the lines of $150 million? What would that do for a city of Selma?
Reporting from Selma, George McDonald, Alabama News Network.
Definitely makes you think. The city of Selma currently operates on an annual budget of about $17 million, and at one point in its history, Craig was one of the busiest airports in the country.
Still ahead tonight at 10, one group is helping Alabama's youth become community